This Avalanche Safety Report is brought to you by Mountain TV. Watch Mountain TV anywhere with our free Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV apps. Learn more at mtn-tv.com.
Mountain TV, and we've got our exclusive weekly update with Brian from the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. We got a busy holiday weekend coming up again, Brian. Lots of storms, lots of snow, lots of people. Tell me what you guys think.
I got to tell you, we're really worried. Just since December 26th, we've had 4 avalanche fatalities and 16 people caught, so that number could be worse. We've got another holiday weekend lining up with very dangerous avalanche conditions, and so we get really concerned about more avalanche fatalities, and we want to get the message out as broadly and starkly as we can that this is going to be a dangerous avalanche weekend. If you kind of take a look at our homepage map here, you can see that we've got large swaths of the Colorado mountains that are sitting at considerable danger. This is level 3 of 5. And just because it's not blinking red does not mean it's not dangerous. Essentially, we're not expecting lots of naturally occurring avalanches, but many slopes are ripe for a person on foot, on a snowmobile to come along and tip that balance and trigger many avalanches. If we look at just the avalanche activity that we've seen over the last week, I've got this filtered here just to show avalanches big enough to bury or kill a person. And you can see we've got about 4 dozen avalanches. We had a spike around January 6th and 7th, which coincided with our last round of snowfall, and a gradual decline. So that trend seemed to be going in the right direction. However, we just added more snow to our snowpack, and this is going to lead to an increase in avalanche danger. And if I show you that here.
And while you're doing that, Brian, you said some of these avalanches that you guys are predicting are just going to be bigger, simply bigger than they've been, and in many cases not survivable.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and this is what's really concerning is we're losing, because the weak layers are getting buried more deeply,
right?
With all of this really nice snow. We are getting less signs of feedback of unstable snow, like the common shooting cracks, collapsing, audible whomping sounds. And so you're traveling around the backcountry, everything seems fine until we trigger avalanches. And these avalanches are now growing large enough so that many of them are essentially just not survivable. So as I can show you here, usually we can point people to certain aspects and elevations that are going to offer some safer travel options. But as we just showed you in the recent avalanche activity for the last week, we're seeing avalanches on basically all aspects and elevations. And this is indicated by the avalanche problem distribution rows, particularly for our persistent slab avalanche problem, or those avalanches breaking on old, weak snow. So you really do need to be cautious on all aspects and elevations. To your point, we're sitting pretty right now in terms of snowpack. You can see all but the southeast portions of our watersheds are sitting above 100% of long-term median. If you look at this on a statewide basis, that green line here is the long-term median. You can see that ample snowfall through December has pushed that black line, which is this season, above average. And we're sitting at 125% of long-term median or even more.
How deep is that? When we look at that image right there, how deep is that?
Yeah, so this is a fairly representative image. It's not quite in the super deep areas, and it's not quite in the super shallow areas. This is about 150 centimeters on the ground. So we're looking at kind of 4 to 5 feet deep. This is the kind of snowpack depth we're seeing across much of the state. So these weak layers near the ground here are very much in play. We also have got weak layers that formed in December and were buried with those Christmas and New Year's holiday storms. And you could easily get avalanches breaking 1 foot or 2 feet deep that then step down into these deeper weak layers. And these are producing these very large, unsurvivable avalanches breaking hundreds of feet wide. By contrast, if we look at these thinner snowpack areas, you can see that the slab is thicker and softer. I'm sorry, it's thinner and softer, but the weak layer is very, very pronounced, almost pouring out of the pit walls here. And this is obviously a snowpack structure conducive to producing avalanches. So on top of this snowpack structure, here's the snowfall that happened Tuesday night and through Wednesday. And you can see in some of those areas we're hitting the reds, which is about a foot of snow.
Significant, right?
Yeah, and so that new snowfall from Tuesday and Wednesday is going to keep avalanche danger elevated as we move into the last part of this work week. Right. We do get a little break in the snowfall, so you'd think things would be allowed to stabilize. But if we look at a longer range model, so you can see our break here on Thursday and Friday, we get another return of snowfall here on Saturday and into Sunday. And that is what's going to keep the avalanche danger elevated through the entire Martin Luther King weekend. We really want to make it back to school, back to work on Tuesday without any more avalanche fatalities. And this is just an illustration of the kinds of avalanches we can expect this week. These are all avalanches which have run in the last several days, but they're very indicative of the kinds of avalanches we're going to see throughout the weekend. So here's in the Gore Range, and you can see we've got avalanches breaking on those weak layers near the ground.
Yep. Well, you really can see it, Brian. You can really see it in that image clearly.
Yeah, and these are those, kind of middle snowpack areas, about 150 centimeters deep. The weak layers that formed in November are very close to the ground. In this case, these avalanches are stepping all the way down into those weak layers.
And as you next slide, Brian, we talked a little bit about the, the angle of the hill. I think people know that when it's steep, there's avalanches can happen, but they can also happen when it's much more level. So don't be fooled is the warning, correct?
Yeah, and it's because of the nature of the avalanche problem we're dealing with. Essentially, we are able to trigger avalanches from a long ways away on a slope, from the ridgeline, and most importantly, from below steep slopes. And this particular avalanche accident, which took place in the West Elk Mountains, is a good illustration. So here's a picture of the crown, and this just happened from several days ago. You can see here's one of our forecasters. So this is not trivial snowpack depth. And it ran down the avalanche slope here, but it ran all the way down onto flat terrain. And if you look closely, you can see some tracks here.
Right there, yeah.
Then got wiped out by this avalanche. So you can trigger avalanches from these flat areas below. Fortunately, no one was down here when this happened, but you can see that just being on flat terrain does not mean you're safe if you've got steeper slopes from above.
Correct. That looks like you could cross-country ski down there, be snowshoeing, and just have no clue. So, I mean, literally, heads up.
Yeah, very much heads up, and particularly be aware of any steep slopes overhead because you can trigger these avalanches from below. We've also had several instances this year where groups have triggered avalanches from above that have come into close proximity to people below. So when it's a crowded holiday weekend, we really want to be aware of where other groups might be. Here's just a couple others, and the avalanches span down all the way into the San Juan Mountains. And unfortunately, here was our latest fatal avalanche accident, which took place up near Rollins Pass. And of course, in this case, one avalanche here sympathetically released the other. And this is the one that led to 2 avalanche fatalities.
Wow. Brian, a busy holiday weekend coming up. You guys do such a great job of getting the word out, and we're glad to partner with you guys and help broadcast that word out. I know you said it's all hands on deck this coming weekend with the number of people and the snow conditions. So thank you so much, and we look forward to getting another report. Fingers crossed that we get through this holiday weekend in great shape.
Yeah, please, let's get through the holiday weekend. Please make conservative terrain choices. You can have plenty of fun on slopes that are less than 30 degrees steep without steeper slopes overhead. So please utilize those terrain features so that we can get through the weekend without adding to this tragic tally that we've started so far this year.
Okay, we'll see you again in a week. Thanks for the update. Keep up the great work. CAIC right here on Mountain TV.
And remember, you can always contribute reports and stay up to date with the latest forecast at colorado.gov/avalanche. Enjoy the backcountry and be safe out there.